Well, hello, my name's Ralph. Welcome to the channel. It's my time. Let's go. Today we're going to get working away on our 4-speed transmission here. We're doing some work on the counter shaft and some different things. We've run into a couple little problems that set us back, but we're moving ahead on it all. Also today, my buddy Big John's coming to have a look at his transmission, and we can talk some things over and show him some things. I always enjoy it when people come to visit and they take part in their motorcycle and want to know how it's working. So it makes it very, very enjoyable for me. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us some comments here. I know that lots of people watch the channel that aren't subscribed, and subscribing really helps us out. So if you can hit that button, it's all good. As we move ahead with the project today, we're going to run into a couple little problems that we didn't count on, but I like to do these things like this because it's a learning experience for you out there, and it's a learning experience for me a lot of times. You're always seeing something different. Things are always changing. So everything opens us up to new possibilities and new learning experiences. Also, stick with us as we'll be bringing you some updates on Margaret as we go. I'm just compiling a bunch of stuff as we're working away on her, and then I'm going to try to bring you a comprehensive video on showing the progress as it's going. But she's coming along, and I got some ideas for it now, and Hippie, you'll be proud of me. But I got some ideas now that I think I know where I'm going with it. I've been hashing it around, looking at the frame sitting there and just trying to figure out which way I'm going to go with it. So that's the plan. So as well, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be bringing you some updates on what else is going on. It's the end of the season, so I'm tied up doing trying to help customers out that have supported me through the years and get their old bikes up just where they want them to be. So when springtime comes, they'll be ready to get on them and go. So now, while doing that, I'm also working away at my latest project, Armageddon, which is just a pet project of mine. I got a stretch frame, 250 tire type of thing going on. I'm compiling some videos on that, and soon we'll get to the build on that as well. It's fall here, so pretty soon we know we'll be into winter and the temperatures will drastically change, and nobody's really excited about that. But that's the way it is up here in the Great White North. So I'm trying to get my head around things and get some projects arranged and get some things in place. And this is a year for me that I haven't built a lot of custom stuff in the past bunch of years. And now I'm sort of, going to just try to get at my own projects and things that have been on the back burner and things that I enjoy, things that I'm working on trying to incorporate into the bike. I got a direction, and that's the way I want to go with it. I got a new camshaft in from my 81 that I'm going to try to put in it and see what happens with that. I'm hoping that all that goes well. If not, then I'll be pulling the head and trying to get another head and have a look and see what's going on. I'm not quite sure, but it's an ongoing battle with the old machines, and as Slick showed you, even stopping along the side of the road, you might have to change a headlight and get it fixed. So, it's such as the way these are, so they require care all the time. And we always have to keep at them for sure. I'd also like to put a shout out to all the ladies out there. I run between 7 and 10% of my viewers are women out there who are obviously interested in motorcycles, because I'm not like a travel channel or showing you beautiful scenery. So I find that intriguing that there's generations of girls that are now coming up and are very interested in the old iron, obviously, or they wouldn't be watching. So thank you all, ladies. I appreciate the support very much. So, that's sort of it in a nutshell as to what I got on my plate. So let's get on with this project and just see what it has in store for us as we move along. So we've got our 4th gear ready to put in now, and as you can see inside, we've cut the depth out on this to put double seals in here, which will really help sealing it up, along with the nice Jim's bushing in there. So to put those in today, I like to put just a light smear on the very outside. Doesn't need very much, but it'll help hold it into place once it's in there. And this will just help keep them in there. Just take your time and get them started in there so the lip is in there. That's what we want. And we want to leave space between the two once we sink it down in there. Go. Just a hair. There we go now. We're snug now. That give you 2 seals in there. And that should stop the problem. We'll grease them up good. Pack some grease in between the seals. Just to keep them lubed up. There we go. Now we'll just put our little O-ring that we've cut the groove out for. Grease that up. There we go. Seals, got my little O-ring in here. And that should stop it from leaking substantially. All right. And we'll have to pop the bearing out of that, because we need this piece. So now we're going to get some pieces on our main shaft. We've got our brass jaws in here. Trying to put them in here so we can clamp the main shaft in. Right down on the... We're going to put our bearing, just tap it into our little piece to hold on here. Okay, it's also going to put this little lock tab in, which sometimes can be quite a bit of a pain. So it goes down, these little tangs fit into the slots on your main shaft, but when you're trying to get these up on the bearing, it's super hard to get a screwdriver or anything in underneath them. So I try my best to just put a little bend in the tab. Really bend the thing up. We just want to start them up in the air just far enough so that we can get something underneath them. Sometimes it's very hard to do once you have the bearing installed. So this has to go on here. The other problem being that the nut has to tighten down on it, so it will want to flatten those out. But it at least gives you a fighting chance there. Okay, now we've got our parts ready. We've got our shaft in the jaws here. There we go. Take this gear here. Slide that on there until it goes down and bottoms out. With the big gear down in there first. So we got our on there like that. Now we're going to put our bearing in there. go. Bearing down in place. A little locking tab. Here we go. So we're just going to try a little dab of Loctite in here. Try not to squish the tabs out too much, but we do have to torque it down. Okay. Now we're going to try and torque that to, I think it says 50 to 60 pounds. It's kind of hard in here unless you got a long nut, but I got a cheater here. There we go. Just barely in the top of it. That'll do it. And we do have a couple spots to get our tabs up, so that's looking good. So we'll very carefully try to pry the tabs up. Enough so you can start them up in the lock. One's in there good. This one kind of on a corner. Here we go. That way, if you take your time, you don't put dents in here to do any damage. We kept the grease side into the transmission. So that keeps it where it should be. We're going to try to get this burnt bearing out of the counter shaft. And it's burnt so bad that one half of this is okay. I can put my little dowel, aluminum dowel in here, which should just fit like that, so I can press it in. But if I try to do it on the other side, it's not even going in. So it's burned up pretty bad. So they're usually not the easiest getting out. So what I've tried to do is get a punch with a good sized head on it, nice and rounded off. And then I'm going to try to get at an angle on these down in there and see if I can loosen the bottom one off. Hopefully it doesn't bust up into pieces. There we go. Burnt smelling. That hardly moves in there. All right. So now that we've got one out, we're going to get the other one out. And we've got this small socket here. It's 11/16. It's just a little bit smaller than the outside of the bearing itself. So we're hoping to drive that out just like that, nice and easy. So I'm going to see right here if I can get it started. And yeah, we're moving there. We're moving there good. So that should do it. Drop that down and try to center it up in there, because I think there's a C-clip in there. You can feel it in your hand if it's moving downwards. Nice and easy. That's it. Oh, that one smells burnt. Burnt up she is. both of these ends of the countershaft have shoulders of sorts, so that your bearing will go down and hit that shoulder and it can't go any farther inside. So that way you can easily set it down to depth. It's just below the top. So I'm just going to take this over to the lathe and just clean this up with some fine emery cloth. Make sure we got a little mark there just ever so slightly. That's the plan. It's nice and clean now. You just see it's like a little discoloration mark. So we've just set this up with our bearing near the end, in between the two jaws, and we should get a nice straight press in there. There we go. Then we'll put it in our press to just finish pressing it down a little bit further. What is going on? Okay, so now we got our gear ready and we're all set up in the press. I like to lube it up inside. Makes everything slide a lot easier with a little bit of engine lube. Okay, now we want to look for the letter side up, which is this side here. We're going to take our little countershaft tool that we have here and put in, just to press these in with. And we'll try to get her lined up straight there. And there is a groove at the bottom, so we're just going down past there. We've got this thing made. We know that once we get down to that, we're almost touching that groove in the bottom, so that's going to do us. All right. So we're sunk down, countersunk a little bit inside, so nothing will touch our washers that are on this side. And now we're going to do the same with the other side. Now the other side, we actually have to go down a little bit deeper when we sink this in. Not a whole lot, because there's still only about 7/8 depth in there before it comes up against the hard shoulder. But we do have to put this countershaft washer in here, and this washer has to go in the end of the gear, whoops, like that. So we have to make sure that our bearing, again, is down past that little area in there. So we'll lube her up, since that one went so nice and easy. You have to be very careful with them. And I'm just going down in there below that shoulder. And I can feel that I'm at the bottom. And that's all we want to go. So we can see that this is down just in there, and it will stop at the groove in there. I just don't like to force it totally against that. But then this piece will go in, and we have no interference with the bearing itself. So you've got to make sure that the bearing is down below that lip there. And we can see by sticking a little ruler in there against the head of the bearing that we're down below that shoulder all around. So we know that our little spacing washer will sit in there perfectly. All right, so we've got our parts pretty well ready to go here, and we've got our counter shaft assembly here, which is our 4th gear, and our 3rd gear here. So onto this. We've greased our bearings up inside. There's a washer on this side, right here, and that's a spacer washer. I'm just going to get a fresh dab of grease there. All right, that'll help hold it in place when we go to slide it down into our transmission. For now, we'll turn it upside down. We'll start putting our gears in there. So next is going to be our 2nd gear in here, and we'll just use some lube. I want to take a moment to give a big shout out to my brothers down south, Hippie's Shopper Corner and Slickhead Custom Cycles. Both these guys have got stuff on the go, and I think that you might find their channels entertaining, and we have a good time back and forth. So Hippie's Shopper Corner, Slickhead's Custom Cycles. Be sure to check them out. First, we can put on our 2nd gear bushing. Oops. There we go. 2nd gear. All right. Then we have a washer. Then we have our ring. I'm going to try to get that started on there. Just take your time, work it around. Go. Put this on here. The rest of the way. We are. And it's critical here that we have this snap ring locked in here. Just make sure that it's locked into the groove, and you can actually take a screwdriver and just turn it sideways on there and make sure that that ring is well locked into each and every groove on it as you go around. There we go. And there we go. All right, we don't want that coming apart. All right, now that we have those in place, we need to put this in. Unlike our other shifter clutch, there's no markings on this, so it's multi-directional. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. So we're gonna slide that on there and put a little lube on it. that down in there. Last but not least, our first gear bushing. Go. Then we have a new first gear for it. We had tried to take this one that was burned out and we had honed the inside out, but when you actually put the bushing in it and stuff, there was too much play with it. It was worth a try, but didn't work out at all. So now we've got a new one. I believe we have to put this in here first. This little ring washer. Put the brass one on there. There we go. So now we're just going to take some grease, put on here, and that's going to help us put this thing in. Otherwise, you'd be fishing and fishing and fishing for it. All right, last but not least, a little oil on there. Put our new O-ring in there. Okay, we're gonna have to handle that. Alrighty, let's go over and put that in. I always like to invite guys here to see what's going on and have a look at things. Picture's worth 1,000 words. If they can hold it in their hand, they can feel it, they can look at it, they can understand what's going on with it. So I try to involve everyone that I deal with in that sort of environment, and I hope that it makes them, feel comfortable. Like John here, we're just going over with his transmission, looking at stuff, because I always like to tell guys what's going on. So we're just going to go through things and hopefully you'll still leave with a smile on your face and everything will be good. Yeah.
Right on, me too.
Yeah. So we're really, here's the trauma. It's right into the bushing.
Gotcha.
In your fourth gear. And then you look at the thickness of an Andrews one.
That's at least twice as thick.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. But here, I bought a new one to put on there.
Day and night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like, because I said I tried to
Yep.
salvage that one, and that's the thing, that's how much it swelled up like that, so that's why that other bearing wouldn't go in that counter shaft. They said it crushed it up.
That's all that heat.
All that heat, a few
Yeah.
thousandths of an inch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When I put the bearings in this, I just use this little tool I made up for pressing them in, right?
Yeah.
And they just went in like they should, and you just take the tool out, the thing's made to fit there so they can't crush up and stuff. But
Yeah.
they just went in like they should.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember putting the other one in, I went, man, this is harder than what it should be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know that it's
You
harder,
feel it.
but
Yeah.
so you push it in, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a huge deal, but I want to be upfront about you and let you have a look at that.
Yeah.
And see, and there's things like this. The gear gets all coming out like this. Like this has got a bushing, try to wiggle that. Like this was all loose in yours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Side to side, would just feel that
Yeah.
way now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just this way, like
Yeah.
just a little tiny bit of play. So I think it'll run nice and true, right?
Right on.
So there should all be like that. And that's why I wanted to fit this one at the end, because it was so wobbly. And here's an interesting fact.
And I can see that play that's in it.
Here's an interesting fact. When I put this thing together, first off, I put the counter shaft in with nothing else in, because it's a bastard to try and do it. It falls down in there and you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
get it out. And they're trying to fit that big washer, like I said, that was spun up in there between the counter shaft like this.
Yep.
Okay. Remember I said that was all torn up in there?
It was all scarred, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
scarred
yeah.
all the way around. I would say it would have had to been like tapped in there. It's a 72,000. I went and measured it. I don't have it right in front of you. It's a 72 thousandths of an inch spacer, which is the smallest spacer you can get for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it had been in there with that spacer because there's no other choice, right? And you can't grind the end off the fucking shaft.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So to get around it, I pressed this back out, this here, and I shaved 0.10 of an inch off it, and then put it back in.
Oh yeah.
And I got, like, I had about 14 thou, so I put this in, I got 4 thou play, it was nice and snug.
Yeah. Right on.
But I was surprised, and just to let you know, because we had spoke about that before being chewed up and say, well, that was too tight and stuff. That was down to the smallest choice possible
Oh yeah.
in the kit. And I looked up to see if I could order something smaller, like sometimes you can order different size shims if you want to.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a thing
Oh yeah.
smaller than the
That was it.
72.
That's it.
So it was probably, the situation where you had to put something in there. Even if you had to type, sort of tap it in,
Yeah.
you can make it move and say, well, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they say the clearance is 4 to 12 thousandths in there, so it's quite a lot. Allowing for it to
It shouldn't
move
be.
some, so
It
it's
shouldn't
tight.
be snug.
And then that's what started heating it up. Blued everything, and then the heat just built up on everything, right? So I had to do those few things to make it all fit. So I don't know why. There's no difference in the this side and this side of these bushings. They're virtually the same thing
Oh yeah.
as far as what sticks out and stuff. And I was very surprised to see if it's, you put new bushings in it and you can't get the smallest
Yeah.
shim in there. It's like the thing has fought me all the way.
Oh yeah.
Every
Yeah.
little tooth and nail corner trying to go, you're just ready to go. And then it's like, oh, for Christ's sake. Today we're back working at the 4-speed tranny, and unbeknownst to me, we've run into a bit of a problem now that we've gotten this far on it. As you've seen with the previous video, there was a lot of things that we had to do to fix this transmission. When we went to put it all together, I figured with the new bushings, all such would be straight. But when we went to put the nut on here, and we tightened it up, the 4th gear would no longer turn. So it's as if, even though it wore some on the outside, as if it's pushed the race cockeyed in it. So that being said, we're down to it. Now all the other things we've done thus far are great. We've fixed the 4th gear, cut it out to put seals in it, put an O-ring in it. All those sort of things, and redone the counter shaft, are all going to be okay to use. So we're not really losing out on anything, but the transmission case has got to go. And our sprocket. Left-hand thread. And as we start to tighten it up, even by hand, it's getting hard to turn. Now you can see we're virtually locking up in there. And that's what happened, is that the race has probably moved. Now I've got this so I can pull this right out. And I'm just going to get something to put a little torque on that. So I'm just going to take, I got this little machinist wedge block with teeth in it, so we can put it in and just slide it underneath the 4th gear there, just enough to hold it, so we can put a little pressure on it. And this nut has to be torqued up. That's not. Just gotta relieve the thing that's stuck in there a little bit. Here we go. Get my lock out, but you can see I can't move it. I can't move it at all. It's completely locked in there. And that is the only explanation to me, is that it's moved this far and something's cocked it. So just out of curiosity's sake, what we're going to do is take a measurement from the face that should be smooth here, and I can just get these feeler gauges in on this side, and they're measuring out at about 133 thousandths of an inch. And I can tell you by just looking here, I'm not even close on this side. I can just barely force that in there. And I'm 122 thousandths of an inch. So that's about 11 thousandths pulled to one side. It doesn't sound like a lot, 11 thousandths of an inch, but as you can see, it's pulling this way. It's twisting it. So we'll have to go along and put our new case on it, but just to be checked off of the surfaces and stuff and such. And that's what's happening, is it's binding up here. It's not binding up on the shaft, it's binding up in the case itself. And there's nothing we can do about that. It has all the proper spacers and everything, but it's locking up the spacers. The distance that is supposed to be there between the bearing and the sprocket spacer on this side, and how much this sticks out on this side, it has closed the gap up severely. You can see with the nut off, this is just the spacer in between, and the gear is hanging out past the bearing like it should be. And if you just hold that spacer on there, you can see how much play there is in that. But what's happening is, as it gets tightened up, it's actually turning sideways. I'm just going to stick part of an old main shaft in here, just so we can hold the gear. And like I say, you know, we have the play here, back and forth between the spacer. If I try to hold it tight here, and holding the spacer tight, you can see how much that gear is twisting inward. And that's what's happening when it's getting tightened up. It's twisting inward, and not only will it cause it to bind in there, but it'll bind on the shaft as well. And you can see from the grooves in the case here, right here, this groove shouldn't be here. That should be all flat area built up to here. And you can see that our gear here is sunk down behind, so we've got no interference there. So what's happening is it actually has rocked, or it has moved the main race enough with the pressure to fill that spot up, and that's caused a bunch of problems. But we thought we'd try it and see, and trying to salvage the case. So while we thought we had the opportunity, I mean, it's just a matter of a bearing in there really. When I had to start frigging with the counter shaft and the distances between, I began to wonder what was going on sort of with this case. But for putting the bearing in there and checking it out and seeing, now we know. So if you ever see those sort of marks on the inside of your transmission, you can't get away with it just running straight on the shaft and stuff, because it actually does go in and touch that surface, and it keeps it running all true. So today, we've got a brand new case here, an aftermarket one, and we're going to use this and put this together. We've got to take all the studs out of our existing case, and this one came with a few bags of studs, so I won't have to take them out of this case. Hopefully. I made a mistake there. I forgot I had the outer ones here on them. So we're going to assemble those, get the studs in them, Loctite them in, and then we're going to start to put our stuff together and put the transmission together. So follow us along, and hopefully she'll go good. All right, so we'll get this out and we'll start on our new case.